Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts Season 2, Episode 6, the second of a two-parter. This past week waiting to get to this was tough, because it's like, I said it last time, but if I had had this downloaded, like, ahead of time, I would have reacted to it last week with Episode 5. Because it's like, it's such a big cliffhanger, and it leaves it off so just interestingly. It's like you want to know what happens. So last time we finally got to the original burrow, not the Clover burrow, the original one that Kipo's family came from. We still don't know why they had to leave, though, initially. But again, based off the flashbacks and all, they left either like right after or right before Kipo's mom died, disappeared, whatever. Although my theory, which seems to possibly have been confirmed, is still that she is the Mega Monkey. Though we haven't gotten like a full confirmation on that. We just kind of got a lot more like kind of a mini confirmation, I guess you could say. We got a lot more just evidence of it last episode. But they get there and they see that it's a science-based burrow, a burrow of scientists who are all doing these different experiments and studies. And they find the Oak family room where we see some flashbacks, and Kipo like sees all this kind of stuff that gives her like some kind of information on just things, on the history, on the past of her family. Dave, meanwhile, is spooked by the entire situation. He's seeing things, and eventually he's proven right when he and Mondu are captured by this mold that is covering the burrow. That seems to have a very childlike personality from the little bit we saw of it. And eventually, by the end, we see that Kipo, Benson, and Wolf have to try to avoid getting captured as well, basically. Meanwhile, Scarlemagne is having a little bit of a fight with the umlaut snakes. And while they're distracted, we can see that these mysterious rebels in the plague masks are trying to take the collar that Scarlemagne is trying to put on the Mega Monkey, which is the entire reason they're in that area in the first place. So, yeah, things are very much progressing here. And also, as I stated last time, it's like prior to last episode, prior to episode 5, I wasn't feeling this season as much. I just wasn't vibing with it as heavy as I was with season 1. And part of the reason was because it was very repetitious of season 1. You had the same basic plot structure with Kipo and her father, just obviously a different situation. They're separated, they need to get back together. That's kind of the main goal with them. And I talked about how everything, all my issues with season 2 so far could be fixed if Leo had just been rescued and like went to stay with the Timbercats or whatnot. Everything else that has happened in the season would have been fine if that were the case. But the pacing of this season is only bothersome because that's the case. Because, like, Leo should have been rescued by now, and the fact that he hasn't been is what's making the pacing feel hard to sit through sometimes. Because again, it just kind of goes in with that issue that it just feels like it's dragging its feet on having Leo and Kipo together, basically. And I'm a little annoyed by that. But last episode, episode 5, turned me around a lot on things. And while it didn't fix all of the issues or anything, it did make me much more excited and much more into this season than I had been prior. So, with this as well, with how this two-parter is organized, it's literally our bridge from the first to the second half of this season. And so if this two-part mid-season finale, you could say, is any indicator, the second half of season 2 might be that much more exciting than the first half was, which I'm all good for, obviously. Um, but yeah, I think that this was just a really good first part to this two-parter, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out. Um, just more, excuse me, just more of the information we get, capitalizing on kind of this enemy of the week thing with the mold, and seeing what happens with Scarlemagne, the Umlaut snakes, the Mega Monkey, and the Rebels. And again, I'm just kind of calling them that for now because we don't really have any kind of actual name or identifier for them yet. Oh, and I almost forgot last episode as well. Mulholland had a random return cameo. He just kind of appeared, and it's like, oh, I did not expect to see you again, but all right. He returned, he helped our heroes, and then pieced out again. It's like it really did kind of feel like just a little bit of fan service from season 1, but it's like, okay. I mean, to be fair, the Timbercats have felt that way too because we haven't gotten anything more with them. All we had was, okay, they appear for one episode just to have somewhere for these other characters to go for the time being. We haven't seen anything about what's happening over there, and I would have liked to see that. That would have been cool to see like what's happening with the siblings and Troy, I think his name is. I can't remember the siblings' names at the moment either. I the issue is they're not shown enough for me to remember their names as easily. I would like to remember their names. It's just it's hard for me when the characters are very minor. It's not as easy for me unless they have like really memorable designs, which I like that they don't in this, but at the same time, it does make it harder for me to remember their names. But I do like that they don't have super memorable designs because it makes them feel like just ordinary people. And I feel like that's what they want to go for these characters. Um, and honestly, like Benson has a pretty ordinary design too, if you think about it. The only reason he's so easy to remember is because he's a main character. Wolf would have a pretty ordinary design if it wasn't for the wolf skin she wears. And Kipo, it's because of the experimentation in her purple skin. So it's like, again, if she didn't have that, she would probably have a pretty ordinary design. Dave is a bug. Dave would stick out no matter what. um, and even Leo has a very ordinary design. He's just a guy, and I like that. I like that they're just regular looking people. They don't look like super special or anything. I kind of dig that. Ironically, like the one notable person from their borough, who did have a more notable design, the mayor or whatever he was. He's like bigger, has a square head, a fancy mustache and shit. Um, he has the most notable design of probably any of outside of Kipo, any of the human characters we've come across. And I don't know if he has a name. It's not even just that I don't remember his name. I just don't know if he has a name. Because I think he's only been referred to as like mayor or whatnot. So that's a bit of a exception too, just because of that. But yeah, like I said, either way, I am very excited to see what we get in store, and maybe in the second half we will catch up with the Timbercats and the other kids. I would very much like to see that. But for now, we are just going to get this started and hope for the best, because as of the day I'm recording this, which actually is Monday, I got a lot of things I want to record this week because my schedule is a little weird this week compared to normal. So, yeah, a little bit of an interesting update to the schedule. So, we'll kind of have to see how that goes. Um, but I mean, I'll be able to record everything. It's just when specifically. Either way, either way. Let's just get to this and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I come up with a lot of theories when watching pretty much anything. Um, and most of the time I don't say them out loud because most of the time I have no confidence in them. And part of that is just because I'm, well, most of the time, wrong. Most of the time my theories end up just being kind of crackpots, kind of random and out of nowhere. It's just what kind of pops into my head at any given point while I'm watching. Um, Especially in shows where there is an ongoing mystery or something. There is some kind of thing that you would theorize about. So when on those rare occasions I get a theory right based off of just little bits of information that the show gives us, it makes me really fucking excited. Like it makes me really happy that I was able to recognize those little hints that the series dropped and put them together in the way that they're, well, meant to be put together. And it was just literally just a couple of small things too at the beginning of the season. Just when Leo was talking to Kipo about her Jaguar form and everything, and it's like, if you can't control it, you could be stuck in it and everything. And the fact that the Mega Monkey seemed in season one to almost have a familiarity with that song that Kipo was singing, which we know she sang with her father. And the Mega Monkey almost seemed to have almost seemed to like her and connect with her and understand her and stuff. It's just like very little bits of information that I connected in a way that just made it make sense to me. Because I felt like it was clear that what they were trying to say with these little bits of information was not just nothing. They were trying to tell us something, I feel. Um especially the fact about with Leo telling Kipo, it's like, if you can't control it, you could never turn back and stuff. Like, that alone is such huge information, and it's like, that's got to be important. And obviously first thought is gonna be like, oh, obviously that's gonna be a danger with Kipo going forward. But you also kind of think like, what else have we seen that could relate to that, to where Leo would know that? And you start connecting the dots with other things, and it just kind of comes together. So it's like last episode when we started to really get more and more obvious um, hints that this could be the case. I was getting really excited, and I was kind of upset that I didn't have episode 6 downloaded last week, because again, I really would have watched it back then if I did. But then seeing it this week and seeing the actual full on confirmation, seeing um, Kipo learn this information and learn this, that the Mega Monkey is her mother and has been this entire time, that she's actually met her mother in her living memory, um, for the first time since she was a little newborn baby. Like, you saw the tears coming down from that. You saw her crying because it mattered to her that she actually met her mother and actually formed a connection with her there. And the thing is, like, when not being controlled, I think her mother knows who she is. Or at least has some kind of inkling. Because again, with recognizing the song and everything, it just seems like there's something there. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. Because now, obviously, Kipo has turned into full Jaguar form and is going after her mother. And here's where the other part of that had come in, like what I was saying about, like, oh, your first thought's going to be like, oh, this is going to happen to Kipo, so how's that going to go? And now we're seeing how well that has happened. Kipo, by the end of this, turns full Jaguar form, and unfortunately the others have her anchor, so we're going to have to see how they can get that to her for her to see. We'll have to see how that all goes, but she's going after her mother. And so could this be a 3-parter? It almost seems like it almost seems like next episode would be like part 3, but then again that wouldn't make sense because the Fun Gus stuff is done. This 2-parter was called Fun Gus. So I'm thinking that the next episode's not part of this 2-parter, it's just a continuation from it. I'm thinking that this second half of the season is going to be insane. Based off of how this episode ended, I was not expecting the full Jaguar form until the end of the season. The fact that we're getting it in episode 6 of 10, I'm thinking that the second half is going to be balls to the wall insanity. Just non-stop. And I'm here for it. Because if this is what that first half, that slow, admittedly poorly paced, or slightly poorly paced at least, first half, if that's what that had to do to build up to this, I'm game for it. I'm still not the biggest fan of Leo being captured still and everything, and being away from Kipo and everything, but it seems like what they're doing could be great. Now, the biggest question from this 2-parter that I have is, who and what is the deal with this Amelia chick? What is her deal? Who is she? Is she actually, as was implied here, as bad as Scarlett, if not even worse? Why does she want the Mega Monkey back? And why was she controlling her in the first place? And if she is as bad and worse as Scarlemagne. And I kind of made a new theory in this. If she is a human supremacist, what's going to come of that? Because it's like she's going to kind of be like an anti-Scarlemagne in a way. And it would fit. It would still fit with everything we've seen of her and her group before about wanting to save the humans, about hating Scarlemagne and everything and wanting to stop him. All of that would still fit if she was a human supremacist. 100%. So I'm just curious to see where this is going to go. Now, my theory is not only just that, but I'm also wondering, could Amelia, like I think Scarlemagne called her Dr. Amelia or something like that. Is it possible that Amelia was in the same burrow as Kipo's parents? I know that that's kind of that this theory has almost no standing to it. I have no reason to guess this. But we never found out who was knocking at the door. And again, I believe Scarlemagne called her Dr. Amelia. We don't know anyone else except maybe I guess the Newton Wolves who could be like referred to that way. Why would she be referred to as a doctor when all from what we know, the only scientists, doctors, yada yada, are the ones from that burrow? And we know Scarlemagne was there back when he was referred to as Hugo. We know that as well. So what if all of them came from that burrow? What if that burrow was kind of the epicenter of just this entire series just exploding out? Like the Oak family, Scarlemagne, Amelia, what if they all originated from the same place and that all of this going on stems from that? That's kind of my theory on that right now. But again, I have very little to go off of with this one, so take this one in a grain of salt. I'm only saying it on camera for you guys because I honestly have a little bit of a high from getting one theory right here with Kipo's mom being the mega monkey. I'm like on a high from getting that right, so I feel like I want to say my next theory to try and hope that will be right too. And again, with the Kipo's mom being the mega monkey, there was actually something there I could work with. With this one, it's almost nothing. It's just a guess, basically, um, based on something that would just kind of be really interesting and cool, if that were the case. There's very, very little to work off of with this one. But it would be really cool and really interesting if that were the case. And it would also raise a lot more questions as well, based on like the idea of like what happened to the burrow after Leo left with Kipo. Was it destroyed and everything because of Song? Did she do that? Like, did she turn into the Mega Monkey at that point? There's a lot of questions that this raises. I haven't talked about the stuff with Fun Gus playing the games with everyone because honestly, I just didn't care. I feel like the creators added that in just to pad out the episode almost because it just I did not care about it like at all. It felt pointless compared to everything else. Everything else was so big, so important, so heavy. I just don't feel like the stuff with Fun Gus was necessary. It wasn't bad or anything. I had no like issues with it. It felt like filler. It honestly felt like filler. I almost kind of wish we instead had just gotten more flashback stuff with Kipo's parents. I don't think we needed an enemy of the week kind of thing for this two-parter. I feel like it was completely unnecessary and didn't add anything. Again, it didn't really detract from anything. It wasn't bad. I had no like issues with Fungus or how he was portrayed or what happened with him or anything like that. But it's just so mad to me because while I didn't have any issues, I didn't have anything I liked about it either. It's like all my attention with these episodes was on literally everything else. Everything going on with Scarlemagne and Amelia, everything going on with Kipo learning about her past and everything. All of that stuff was so infinitely interesting and exciting that it's like, what was the point of having this Fun Gus stuff? And the episodes are also called Fun Gus. Like that is what the titles of the episodes are. I almost want to feel like they put that in just so they could throw people off who are going to look at the titles beforehand. It's like, oh, we know people are going to look at the titles before they see the episodes, um, because for some reason people do that. I don't understand why. It makes no sense to me why people would want to possibly spoil themselves like that. But it almost feels like to me like maybe the creators did that specifically to throw the people who would do that off. Like they knew it's like, oh, these people are going to look at the titles to try and like maybe see some spoilers or see like get some kind of clue as what's gonna happen. And so we're gonna throw them off. We're going to have this two-parter that is extremely important, extremely interesting, extremely high quality animation. But we don't want them to find out what it's actually about. So we're going to sneakily just add something in here that has nothing to do with anything and is not relevant and not really that interesting. But we're going to just sneak it on in here. Name the episode after it. So it just seems like this completely benign, random two-parter that doesn't probably have much to do with anything. And then we're going to just absolutely blow people's minds with it. That's like, that kind of comes across as what I almost expect them to have done, but I don't know if that's the case. And I'm not going to assume that I even think that for any notable like amount. um it's just it's just that it's that random and that out of place with everything else in the episode. It just feels so unnecessary. Um, but yeah, there's so much I'm wondering about because of this, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. So we know all this experimentation was done specifically to allow humans to feel safe enough to live on the surface to where they wouldn't need burrows. Um, and that things obviously didn't go quite according to plan because of the unstable nature, let's put it, of the mutagen. And so it's just like there's just, again, a lot of questions and no real way of knowing exactly where it's going. But because I got the one theory right, I'm going to hold on to my other theory for now. I'm going to hold, even though, again, I have very little, almost nothing to base it off of, other than just the fact that it sounds like it could be a cool idea. And like these tiny little bits of information that I'm just kind of like adding up to something in my head that probably isn't true. But I'm gonna hold on to my theory for now that maybe this Dr. Amelia is from the same original burrow as the others. Maybe. And that maybe she's a human supremacist making her kind of the opposite, the polar opposite of Scarlemagne, but also just as dangerous and bad. Um, because no matter what, if you're a supremacist, no matter what it's a supremacist for, you're bad. There is no positive spin you can put on being a supremacist. The idea of putting yourself above anyone else is inherently bad. It just is. Especially to the degree that supremacists do. Because if it's just something like a person saying like, oh, humans are a more dominant species, more important species than like typical animal kind on the planet. It's like you know that people don't usually mean that in any real harmful negative way. But the kinds of people who are like who say like, oh no, it's like if all animals died as long as humans survived, it would be fine. It's like no, that's not okay. That's when it gets to be too much. But it's like any kind of just insane supremacy, basically, to where one group sees another as just inherently inferior to a notable degree. That's just, it's wrong. It is blatantly 100% wrong. So if that idea is correct and Dr. Amelia is the polar opposite of Scarlemagne, that would kind of make her at least just as bad. Though it is possible she could be worse. It is possible. But I guess we'll have to see as season 2 continues. So, with this being episode 6, we have 4 more episodes to go. And I'm both excited and sad for that fact. Because I'm excited because, again, if this second half is going to be balls to the wall insane, I'm going to be so hyped about it like every single week. But there's only 4 episodes. It's like, I want more. And yeah, there's this season 3, and we will get to that down the line. But it's like I kind of wish these Netflix cartoons and everything were longer. You know, like I understand why they're not. I understand why they're this length, like around 10 episodes or whatnot. I get that, but I wish they were longer because there's just so much more they could do with these shows. And especially with some of them that really need to get renewed. Hint, hint, glitch techs. We need a season 3, at least, just to finish the story, please. It left us on a cliffhanger. But seriously, like, I really just do wish that a lot of these more modern streaming shows, cartoons especially, did get more episodes. Just as a personal thing. I understand why they don't, but I wish they did because there's just so much room for awesome stuff in them. With Kipo, with Glitch Techs, with Infinity Train even, which we are getting back to with book 3 this week. But yeah, it's just, I'm excited for the prospects of this, what this season does still have to offer. Even if it is only 10 episodes, and even if we are getting closer and closer to the end of this season, I'm still excited for what they're going to do with these 4 episodes. Because even though it's not perfect, Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts has proven to be fantastic. And the fact that it's getting me this excited and this hyped, it says a lot. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Just going to leave it off on that. Tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts? And as always, no spoilers. Like, especially with this series. Like, this is one of those series on the channel that I'm really going to hammer that in on. Do not spoil me on this. I will be super pissed if anyone spoils me on this because I don't want to know anything. I am luckily entirely blind for the future of this series. I don't know anything. I have not been spoiled on anything because unfortunately, not a lot of people talk about this, at least not the people I follow on social media, which sucks. That doesn't mean they don't like and have it. They still might like it. They still might have seen it. It's just they don't talk about it right now. But yeah, no spoilers. Just just don't. Don't. Please. I beg you. I want to continue going into this as blind as possible. Because as I've stated in the past, for me at least, it gives me the most genuine reactions. When I'm spoiled on something, it ruins the hype and interest for me. I'll give you an example, real quick. I know I said I was going to end this, but I want to give you a real quick example. One Piece. If you're watching my One Piece reactions, you know that just recently the character of Yamato uh, made his debut. Um, his real debut, because he technically appeared in previous episodes. Um, Not even technically, he just did. But he made his real full debut. And the issue is there were multiple things I was spoiled on with him. First of all, I knew who he was. I knew what he looked like unmasked. Um, I knew a lot of things about him. Not personality or character wise, but just these base, simple, like factoids. Like basically I heard a bunch of fun facts without having any context. And although I didn't have that context, I'm glad for that. I did still know these few little things about him. And that made it so that when he did appear, my hype was not anywhere near the level it could have been and should have been. Honestly, I feel like I was a little bit robbed of just what could have been an amazing reaction to all of that. But the One Piece fandom is loud. They love to talk. So I've they've been actually one of the fandoms I have had the hardest time avoiding spoilers with. Just because they love to talk about things. Luckily, I do avoid most spoilers, but I do hear a few things every now and again. But the point is, because I had known about his character beforehand, his full debut in the anime just didn't have the same effect on me as it would have otherwise. I wasn't as excited, I wasn't as hyped, I wasn't as surprised by it. And unfortunately, it's just it wasn't as fun to watch because of that. But then you have something like Kipo, where again, I haven't heard anyone talking about this, so I'm going in completely blind. I don't know what's coming. And it's like that's in fact the biggest reason why I'm still so excited that I got that theory about Kipo's mom being the Mega Monkey correct. Because I know nothing going forward with this show. So the fact that I got that right blows my mind, honestly. Because it's just, and it means more than if I had known about it beforehand and saw this episode. It's like, oh, there's this big reveal. It's like, yeah, I unfortunately knew that. It wouldn't have been as impactful or exciting, you know? That's all I'm saying. But yeah, now we should probably end this because we've been talking for quite a bit in these afterthoughts. Um, but yeah, like I had said, tell me your thoughts down below. No spoilers. Do not spoil me, please. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.